Welcome to a PhD's Toolkit, a series in which we review tools, techniques and software that makes your life as an academic just a little bit less of a struggle. In this series, we'll share our honest opinions and experiences with different tools, and today we're going to look at Vizly, an AI-based data analysis tool that allows you to analyze your data without the need of having to spend hours to learn how to code. As proper scientists, we are going to rigorously review each of the tools in this series, and we're going to look at different criteria. Specifically, we're going to look at function, ease of use, price, and significance. And lastly, we're going to rank each tool on our toolkit scoreboard. But before we get into any of that, Jadon is going to give you a tour of this tool.
Yes, so first off, what you're going to want to do is go to your web browser and type in thestrugglingscientist.com/Vizly. This will immediately take you to the Vizly website tool. Once there, you can get started by clicking the Get Started button here at the top. And you have several different options on how you want to register, sign up, or just log in if you already have an account. Those options are logging in either via your Google, Microsoft, Apple, or your own personal email. For right now, we already have an account, so I'm going to log in with our Google account. Okay, so now we're logged into Vizly. And from here, it'll look pretty reminiscent if you've ever used something like a ChatGPT before, where it's basically kind of like this chatbot-like interface where you can get started. So in order to really make use of Vizly, the first thing you need to do is upload your own sort of data file to get started and start working with and start analyzing your data. And to do that, you just click on the Select Data Source button right here, and then you have some options. I would recommend, and I think most people would find this handy as well, just to upload the data file directly to Vizly and start working from there. Now, I can already hear quite a few of you thinking, but should I do this? Is my data actually safe if I upload it to this AI tool? Not to worry, because Vizly actually has two different things that it does to try and keep your data safe and secure. First, it creates a sort of separate sandbox environment where only you have access to the data file that you upload there and can work on Vizly there. So not even the people behind Vizly can access your data or do anything there. Secondly, if you are inactive for over an hour, then what will happen is that Vizly will automatically delete the data file that you uploaded from its environment. So you'll still have access to the environment, the entire chat that you had with the AI tool, the graphs that you made, the code that it generated, but the file will be removed. So only you really still have access to it on your computer or wherever you uploaded it from. So that's how it keeps your data safe. Now, with that little safety disclaimer out of the way, let's actually dive into what Vizly can do for you. So we've now uploaded our own data file right here. Next up, you have some options. So you can either choose to switch what type of AI large language model you want to use to work with your data. You have some options. By default, Vizly is set to the default option, which it will cycle between the different AI large language models based on whatever it thinks is best to help solve your question or problem. And you can also choose the coding language that you want to use, either Python or R. I have found great results so far with Claude Sonnet 3.5 and using Python. I know a lot of scientists and researchers use R, but I really like Python, so I'm going to use that for right now. So once you dial in your settings, you're now ready to start gathering your insights, creating beautiful graphs, and also generating reproducible code that you can use to maybe rerun your analysis in the near future as well. Let me show you what that'll look like using the data file that I just uploaded here about Pokemon, everyone's favorite topic. So first off, I'm going to start by analyzing the dataset and just asking Vizly to give me an overview of this dataset. Okay, cool. So now you can already see it gives you a short little snippet of what the dataset looks like. It gives you all the different parameters that are available in the dataset, and it also gives you a little bit of a summary of like how many data points are in it, as well as key insights like several of the Pokemon don't have a type 2. Very insightful if this is the first time you're working with your dataset and it's a large dataset that's kind of unwieldy. Next up, we're going to generate a nice graph based on all this data. So let's have a look at how many different Pokemon there were in each generation. You can see this amazing graph here that Vizly just generated. And lastly, you already saw this as we were going through this demonstration right now, but you could see that Vizly was generating the Python code already at the top, which we can save and export as well and have accessible to ourselves beyond this conversation. So that's just a simple example of how Vizly can be used for both data analysis, data visualization, as well as generating code. But of course, it's not enough to have your data and everything on Vizly. You actually still need to collaborate with other people most of the time for your papers. Your supervisor will want to see it, as well as your other colleagues. And for that, you can just export the stuff that you made on Vizly. You have a couple different options when you want to export. So for example, when it comes to the entire conversation, you can export it as a Microsoft Word file, or a PDF, a Jupyter notebook, or an HTML file. And of course, your now very beautiful graphs, you can also export as PNGs.
Now, as you can see from the tour, Vizly is a really great tool to help you with your data analysis and your visualization of your data. Now, we at Struggling Scientists love any tool that can help struggling scientists out there make their life a little bit easier, and we think Vizly might be one of them. Now, in full transparency, the Vizly creators did ask us to review their tool in our series, and they were really helpful in explaining all the details, especially about the privacy and how exactly that works, to us, and they were also really quick in incorporating some feedback that we had. They are just as excited as we are about helping scientists, and we are really excited to see where this technology will go next. Now, if you use our link, thestrugglingscientist.com/Vizly, we do earn a small commission that helps support our channel and everything we create here. And even better, we get to offer our viewers a discount. If you use our link, you will automatically get a 20% discount added to your cart when you are at checkout. That brings us right into our first review criteria, function. Now, we have already seen a lot of great functions of Vizly in the tour, and one of the things that I would have loved having Vizly for during my PhD would be the analysis of RNA-Seq data. I had RNA-Seq data that I generated myself, but also from some publicly available databases that really helped my research. So I downloaded one of these RNA-Seq databases from the internet and wanted to reanalyze them in Vizly now. Now, anybody who has worked with RNA-Seq data knows that they contain a lot of information with a lot of different genes, and in this case they also had 4 different conditions with each an NS tree in them, and so that means a lot of different columns with a lot of different information. As you can see, this was quite a complex data set. Now, I thought perhaps that I needed to simplify it a little bit for Vizly, but it turns out that when you upload a dataset to Vizly, you can add extra information about what each column means. And that really helped the AI figure out which columns went together and which conditions went together. This helped it make the graphs that I wanted. Now, I did have to figure out my prompting a little bit, because with some things I asked it still wanted to give me each individual data point instead of the average of it with a nice standard deviation. So it does require some back and forth of you and the AI to figure out really how you're going to get what you're asking, what you want out of it. But because you have the option of just discussing with your AI and asking what it thinks as well, eventually you will get to the point where you want to go. It can make some really cool graphs like heat maps and volcano plots. And then of course it also has some other additional functions, like it can do R coding. I have to say that with the R coding, you do see that the plots you get out of it are a little bit less interactive. Quite similar to what they would look like in R, to be honest. So that's not that weird. But that's one of the reasons why I also prefer the Python version, because you get these really nice interactive graphs where if you just hover over a data point, you get more information out of it, which I think is absolutely amazing. Vizly can also connect directly to a dataset on Google Sheets, where you can then store it if you want. And also really nice is you can publish your entire conversation and make it with a shareable link, make it available to your PI, and then you can talk about everything you did in the AI tool and what analysis you exactly ran, which is of course great for those meetings that we all need to have. You can export conversations also just as a file. You can do meta-analysis where you combine multiple files together and ask it to relate those. And if you ever run into any problems or bugs that might still exist, the Vizly team is really willing to help and willing to help you figure out where it goes wrong and how to fix your problems. So it's really great that they are so helpful. Okay, now for our final rating, it does take a little bit back and forth. As most AIs, you need to figure out what prompting is best to use with it, and then it can really help if you have some background knowledge about statistical analysis, what that's supposed to look like, what you need to check in the data to make sure that your analyses are correct. Now, data analysis tools are quite a rare breed still out there. Most AI tools that we have are for writing or for finding literature. but the data analysis tools are still very, very rare. And we really think it's very, very cool that Vizly is now adding to this space. Next to that, there's really helpful creators that want to make this a tool that is the best out there for scientists, which we think is absolutely great. So with all of that in mind, we are going to give Vizly 4.5 stars out of 5 for function. There's still some small improvements that can be made, and we can only hope that as AI gets better, this even gets better, but we are already really, really excited about what is there and what you can do with it right now.
Okay, so that brings us right into the ease of use. And when I think of ease of use of a tool, I immediately start thinking about, well, where can I access the tool? How easily available is it for me to start working with? And now for Vizly, I'm pleased to say that it's available on all major web browsers. Yes, that also includes Microsoft Edge of all places. So basically anywhere you have internet access, you can access Vizly and start working with it, which is great for most people. Unless you're that one sort of hermit researcher who doesn't quite really believe in the internet and prefers using a calculator for their data analysis. For them, Vizly, less great. But for the other 99.999% of researchers out there, Vizly, probably amazing. From there, I want to move on to the next criteria for ease of use, which is how difficult is the tool actually to use for, how much will I need to learn to actually get started with this tool? And when it comes to something like coding, data analysis, or creating beautifully stunning data visualizations, I immediately think a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, and probably a lot of mistakes along the way when it comes to coding or all these things. And there, what I really like about Vizly is that it really helps simplify the entire process. It really makes it a lot easier to get started with coding, to start making beautiful graphs. And it does all of this in a very simple way. You just chat with it. You just simply ask it questions. You simply write what you want to do. You might not know exactly what statistical test you might need for your analysis, but you kind of know what you want to compare. You kind of know what data you have at least maybe available to you to start working with. And you can just start asking like, hey, I want to compare group A and group B. Tell me about them. What direction should I go? And why do you think this? It's very important to ask it why, because that helps inform you of like what you actually need as well. And what things you should be considering, like for example, the assumptions that go with a statistical test as well that you might not have been aware of. Now, it's important to note here, when it comes to something like Vizly, that is a data analysis tool, it's there to enhance your data analysis, your coding, your visualization, not replace it. So definitely do not take everything it says as gospel and it's like, oh, it's perfect, it's done, it's analyzed it. You still need to know what you're doing, what you're working on. So always double check these things, but it can really make your life a lot easier, a lot faster, and make the process of coding or data visualization a lot easier than it probably was before. It also has quite a few different customizations as well, so you can choose whether you want light or dark mode, which can really enhance your overall experience. Obviously, I go with dark mode, just my vibe, but yours may vary. And from there, you can also choose which large language model you want to use or which LLM you want to use. So depending on what kind of questions you have, what kind of data you want to work with, different LLMs might perform differently, but just give it a try, see what works best for you. Personally, I found Claude 3.5 Sonnet to work best for my needs, so that's been great so far. It also gives you some coding language options such as Python or R. A lot of people go for R, but Python is also just available there, and it's also great to work with as well. And finally, well, what are you going to put in your papers? Your beautiful graphs, your beautiful data. And what I like about Vizly is that you're not locked into whatever it generates and that's it. It gives you the option to actually edit it and make it more beautiful, more paper ready, if you will, more ready to publish as well, and share it with your colleagues as well. So with that said, I would give Vizly 4 out of 5 stars for the ease of use. It's really easy to get started with and start working with. However, you still do need to figure it out a little bit to play around with it to see, which language model works best for your type of data, or which you prefer working with or need to work with as well. There's still a bit of a learning curve there, but it's significantly less than, learning Python or R from scratch.
So our next criteria is pricing. Now Vizly does have a free plan that is the one that you get signed up for automatically when you make an account on Vizly, which will get you 10 messages per month. It's not a lot, but it's enough for you to try out if this will work with your dataset and if it will do what you want to do. So that's great. Now the reason that you have limited messages per month in the free plan is because creating this sandbox environment that protects your data and keeps it safe For every user, there's quite a big cost for the creators. So this is why quite quickly you do need to pay something for Vizly and for all the AI usage that it of course also has. Now it has a basic plan and a premium plan. The basic plan costs $19.99 per month and gives you 200 messages per month, and the premium plan costs $29.99 per month and gives you unlimited messages. You can also pay per year to have a little bit more of a discount. And then of course there's also our discount code that will either give you 20% discount for the first 3 months or will give you a 20% discount on the entire year if you pay for an entire year. So that's really cool. Now, rating based on pricing, we do understand that this privacy that we of course all find very, very important makes it that it costs a bit. So we understand that, of course, we all love a free tool, but when it weighs privacy against that, then we think this tool is definitely worth it. So with that said, we will give Vizly a 4 out of 5 stars for pricing.
So that brings us to the significance. And what we mean by significance is how impactful is it going to be for, let's say, the average PhD student who wants to analyze their data, the average postdoc who might need to debug code, or the average researcher who just wants beautiful graphs to take to their conference and show off. And in the case of Vizly, I would say it's going to be quite impactful because, let's face it, most of us did not get into research because we love doing statistical testing, unless you're that PhD student in statistical testing. But at least in my case, for example, I wanted to get into research because I wanted to do some cutting edge research. I wanted to make some scientific discoveries that I would be proud of, as well as having the research that I do actually contribute to the overall pool of human knowledge, if you will. Not just run statistical testing, not just debug code, not just any of that. And I think that's where Vizly really shines. It really helps you make all those processes that might seem a little bit tedious, but are definitely necessary, that are definitely important to get right, easier for yourself. That you can still generate amazing graphs that you can use for your paper, analyze your data a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and also easily share that with your colleagues and your supervisors to get feedback on faster as well. It's like having your own personal data analysis there to help answer all your dumb questions about ANOVA. So quite handy, I would say. Next up, is it really useful for all PhD students? And I would say that depends. I know for myself, as more of a STEM, sort of more quantitative researcher, Vizly is great with data analysis for when it comes to numbers, for example. So there I would have really valued it during my PhD. But maybe if your PhD is more in the qualitative sciences or qualitative research, maybe it's less useful there. I'm not really sure, but let us know in the comment section whether if you're a qualitative researcher, if you think Vizly would be handy for you as well. We really like to know. Additionally, I would also say that one thing that you really need to take into account when it comes to Vizly is that even if it is great for your type of data, your type of analysis, you still need to take into account whether your university will permit you actually using a tool like Vizly to analyze your data. For example, a lot of medical researchers who have human data that can potentially still be traced back to the original person, they might not be allowed to use Vizly, for example. But that's really going to depend on their specific university, their specific institute, what their guidelines and regulations are for that. Where I would say, always ask, always see if there's permission that you can get there. And if not, you also have your answer then. But overall, Vizly is almost a game changer for a lot of people, and I would really like to know for more qualitative researchers if it could also be a game changer for you. So with that said, I would give Vizly 5 stars on significance, with the caveat that it really depends on what kind of research you do. But I think if you're doing that research, you'll know immediately whether Vizly would be handy for you or not.
And with that, we are already at the last part of our episode where we're going to put Vizly on our ranking tier list. Now first, our overall score, Vizly really scored very well on all the different criteria that we rated it on, and the overall rating is 4.5 out of 5 stars, which is a really, really good score for this tool, and we think that it will really help make the life of struggling scientists out there just a little bit easier. So let's look at our ranking board, and we are going to put Vizly on our top tier rank. Especially since it's such a rare tool to find out there, we think it deserves this rating, and we are very, very excited to see what this technology will bring in the future. Now, if you're really interested in other AI tools and want to see where we put those on our tier list without waiting for our next few videos, then sign up to our newsletter and we'll send you our tier list much more completed than you see here in your email mailbox. Sign up to our newsletter via thestrugglingscientist.com. Now, if you really like this video and would like to see more like it, then subscribe to our channel because we are planning to make a lot more PhD's Toolkit videos. And we hope to see you next time.